Hello, and welcome back to another video. I am back here in my single player world after quite a while, and I'm so excited to get back to doing things. In this video, we're going to be doing a bunch of terraforming over here on this mountain. I think I kind of brought this up in like one of my earlier videos where I wanted to like customize this waterfall over here with the cave in the back, and I've got some big plans for it. But before we actually get into the plans of what we're doing today, I thought I would bring back up this silly little truck. I know I keep on bringing it up, but also to be fair, you guys keep on giving me suggestions, so it's not all my fault. And the first suggestion was to use beds. And I think that actually like works really well. Like I wasn't expecting it to work so well, but I think it gives it like a lot of fine details. I thought it was going to look like weird having beds on the front, but I don't know. I feel like it gives it a lot more details that it didn't have before. But let's try some of the other ideas. Now the next one was to use these glowing item frames instead, and then just use the normal white color. And I feel like that's better than the initial yellow that we had. But I'm not sure it's better than the beds because the beds were just really, really good, which I wasn't expecting. But like, if I hadn't seen the beds, I probably would have liked this like instead. Now, if we try to combine these two together, how does that look? I feel like it muddles it too much. Like now you can't make out the fact that the beds are rectangles, which I feel like was actually an important part of the beds. The beds being rectangles is important, and this kind of makes that not happen. Okay, I think I'm just going to stick with the beds because that's my personal favorite, but I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments. And if you have other suggestions for the truck, please leave them down below so I can keep on bringing this up. Or, you can stop bringing up stuff about the truck and then we'll just stop talking about it. But I thought I would share a bit of the other things that I've been working on. And so I've made this path over here that goes behind all the builds that we've made so far. It's kind of hitting into that mountain, so we'll have to clear away some of that, and that'll be kind of troublesome. But I am thinking over here we'll be able to do some builds facing towards this part of the road, and that should be pretty cool. I was thinking they'd be like a little bit shorter because they got to run under these power lines over here, and they're like kind of off the main street. I feel like the other side is more like the main street. This is like a back end street, there's just little builds back here. So future ideas coming here. And then over on this side, I've been working on a build that goes in between the museum over here and the Italian restaurant. And I think I kind of forgot to mention when I was working on the museum that this gap was going to be eventually filled by a build, but I kind of forgot to mention it. So I'm kind of showing you guys just to show that something's going to go here, but the actual build itself is very temporary right now. It's still a work in progress. Not many details on it yet, and I'm still sort of figuring out if I have made bad choices with my coloring, but I do overall like the mangrove red color. That's something I really like over here. I feel like it kind of, the color at least, fits nice in that area. I'm just not sure about the shape or the block choices, but, it's a work in progress. And then I haven't done anything yet with the interior of the museum because I've been working hard on trying to get some dinosaur skeletons sort of working, but I haven't been able to finish that up yet, so hopefully in the future we'll be able to actually finish this. Now the last big thing that I've been working on is this path over here that I've continued down from my little starter base all the way kind of zigzagging over here, which it's very rough right now, as you can tell. I still want the river to come through over here, so as we're doing the terraforming with this area, I'm going to be cutting away huge portions of this mountain because I've got to get this river to be thick enough. And if we actually fly up in the air with free cam, because this is the best way to actually see it, you can see it's pretty darn thick over here, and it keeps that same thickness through the rest of the river area, but then over here it gets too thin. And so we're going to take away like a bunch of this mountain to make it just as thick as this portion. And then eventually we'll probably smooth some of this over here. And then obviously this portion is like what we're actually working on today. Now, for this actual terraforming project, I wanted to try out Axiom, which is a like creative mode kind of building tool. If you haven't seen it before, it's really cool, but it's not something for us to use here in our survival world. It's something for us to use in creative and then actually bring what we've made in creative back to the survival world and like replicate it here. And so I've kind of already done that because I've had some free time already to design the sort of landscape that I want. At least generally, I'll probably come in and tweak things even more because that's just what you keep on doing when you're building. But I've got this sort of like triple layer waterfall coming on down, starting all the way at the top of the mountain instead of there. And then it still flows off the edge, though, in front of the cavern over here, which is what I really wanted because I wanted it to cover up the cavern a bit more to make it like mysterious and sort of that cave behind the waterfall like trope that lots of people do, which I'm just doing myself. And then I've actually wanted to have the waterfall come into this river because right now it's going into this like lower little pond thing down here. And I want it to instead flow into the river portion because I think that'd look cool. And by the way, there's this horse that's just been chilling down here in this little like lake area. And I was thinking about calling this cave like Horse Cave because of the little horse. Or maybe this is Horse like lake or pond or whatever you would call this, and then this cave is something else. I don't know. But something about this horse, he's been living here for a while, so it's obviously his spot. But without getting too much more into the exact details of what I'm going to do here, I think I'm just going to start working on it, clearing away a bunch of the land, getting things how I want it, and then I'll kind of bring you guys back and I'll explain some of the choices that I made. And I am done with the build. I just did it all at once, and I've got it looking pretty darn good. I've obviously made it a lot more stone than the dirt that it was before, because I felt like when it was very sheer, like over here, I'll probably change some of these cliffs as well later, but when it's like very sheer like this, you almost don't like expect there to be grass along these little edges and like dirt all the way. You kind of expect it to look like this, where there's a bunch of stone instead, kind of making up the whole wall, and then there's like dirt and grass kind of at the flatter points. And then it kind of fades away over onto the side into the more vanilla terrain because it had to end somewhere. Same with over here. It kind of blends its way into just the vanilla over on this side. But I feel like this has turned out fantastic. I particularly like this little like outcropping I made over here. I don't know. It just sort of accidentally happened while I was playing around with the Axiom tools, and it's like one of my favorite parts now. Um, I've got little trees up here at this little like lake area, this little pond, I guess. It's not big enough to be a lake. It's like a little pond. And these trees are actually just copy and pasted over from my museum build. The ones that I did out front over here are now also over here. And that made it a lot easier for me without having to design like whole new trees. And so that's a good tip for you all. If you can reuse trees, just reuse them. Don't keep on making new ones. That's a lot of work. And then we've got another little like pond area up here that's even smaller. And then there'll probably be some sort of pond slash river slash whatever that feeds into this, but I didn't want to design all that. So right now it just comes from nothing essentially. It comes down here, goes down there, and then comes down all the way down. And I saw B-dubs doing these beautiful like glass waterfalls, and I was like, whoa, that's beautiful. But I wanted to keep it the same like blue watercolor that the rest of the water is around here. So that's why I ended up just using like the normal non-glass waterfalls, just the normal waterfalls. But I did add bits of glass down at the bottom to add like the crashing of the water where it like foams up, or not really foams up, it like mists into like little bits as it sprays all over. And so I've kind of got some of that. And then this is probably really hard to see from so far away, especially on video, but I've got little campfires under there that are occasionally making little poofs of smoke, which kind of add to like the effect of a bunch of splashing water going all over the place. So I've got some up there as well, and some down there. And at first I thought the glass was a bit too much, but I tweaked it a bit, and if we actually go and fly over to one of these waterfalls, I could show you a bit of one of the tricks that I used. Besides just going crazy on the, glass blocks versus glass panes, I kind of used white when it was like more solid, when there would be like a lot of misty foaminess right there. And then as it got to like the edges around it, I started using light gray to make it seem like it was dissipating a bit. So like around the edges here, more around the top, it's light gray. And then like towards the center is where it's like just the normal white. And I feel like that turned out really good for making the effect of the crashing waterfalls from far away. And then down here, I've actually made the river go out a bit further. So, or this way a bit further. It comes on in this way or out that way. Whichever way the water is going, it's going out that way, but it's further down in here now. So I kind of built over that like bottom lake that I had over here. So now this is built on top. And then there's also like a little bit that kind of comes off over here so that the water can come down. And the reason why I wanted to do this, I did it so you could stand over here, and then from this view over on the road, you kind of do have to go a bit onto the edge to like fully see it. But even from like this angle, you can see that the water now actually comes like in front of the cave opening, whereas before it was like next to the cave opening. It didn't really like cover it, but I wanted it to cover it, and so that's why I had to make the little extra bit on top so that the water could come down facing this way as well. And I honestly think one of the best views is like from over here on this side, because when you're over here, you get like just that little bit of like the bottom waterfall where you can actually see the foaminess. And if we even had like a build that was over here, but like higher up, you could like then see the little bits of the lakes over here. And depending on how high the build is, you can even see up there. So I feel like we definitely need to build some more stuff over on this side that just right now houses my aging copper, but in the future, maybe we'll add some more road, or I don't know if we need more road. I keep on putting road everywhere. Maybe just some builds, or I don't know what, but I think this view over here is really, really cool. Now, one of the interesting things while I was building this, and I didn't really think about it until I got to the top when I was building it, was that the watercolor up here is much different than down here. And so there's a transition period sort of in the middle of this little pond over here where it goes into the dark blue from that light blue. And so I wanted to try to make a bit of a reason why it's changing colors. And so I kind of placed this weird mystical statue thing, a little shrine of sorts, into the water over here, right where the transition happens. And so maybe it's some magical effects converting the water over from this light blue to the dark blue that then flows into this little town area. But then up here is maybe more mystical because I don't know, I feel like light blue water feels much more mystical and fantasy than the dark blue of the traditional city stuff. Now, one thing I haven't done with this is I really haven't detailed any of the stone areas. I know there's lots of like tips and tricks out there on how you can help shade it so that it looks more 3D or looks more detailed. And I definitely want to go back in later and at least add some more details, because especially in some like these big areas down here, it is just very flat of one color. And so adding at least like some little points of interest, little like cracks in the rock, or I don't know, some other sorts of things will probably help it a lot. But this is kind of where I wanted to leave it because it's already quite a big project that I've done now. And so if you guys have any suggestions on how I can modify this further to make it even better, please leave a comment down below. And for this being my first ever big terraforming project that I've like ever done in Minecraft, I've only ever done like small little areas. For something this big, I feel like it turned out really well for my first try. And hopefully as we get around to more of these cliffs, because there's so many around here that could probably get modified and changed, and I just see like the time sink this whole place could be. I feel like hopefully I'll get a lot better and better, and I'll probably look back at this in the future and think, what the heck was I doing? Why did I do that? And we'll never know. So, me from the future real quick, I kind of realized while I was watching back the recording that I forgot to add like any little bits of like the short grass or just anything. And so I've added a bunch, and I just wanted to share it so people in the comments wouldn't roast me for the fact that there was just like nothing there on top of the grass, because it definitely needed something a little bit extra to help like bring it together. And I feel like it looks so much better now that I actually have like little bits of grass here and there. And there's occasionally, every once in a while, like a little fern that kind of blends in. So I think it looks pretty good now. Now, just as over here, I made a little monument to the fact that I had 100 subscribers. I called it Cent Subway Park, the cent being 100. That's sort of like a common term, like century is 100 years, cent. Sub for subscribers, that one's kind of makes sense. And Uri because it sounded fancy. And then Park. And so I felt like we needed another monument for the fact that I am well over 1,000 subscribers now. And so I was thinking that little shrine up here that was kind of perfect for something like this will make as a little monument to the 1,000 subscriber mark. So I'm calling it the Kilo Sub Shrine. Kilo for 1,000, or at least I'm pretty sure that's the correct like prefix for 1,000. Sub again for subscriber, and then just shrine because it's a little shrine up here. And possibly in the future we'll do something again for the next milestone, which I mean, if my channel keeps on growing as much as it has, that might not be too long. But I just wanted to thank you all for subscribing and enjoying my content. It's kind of crazy that I've gotten so many people that are enjoying this. And so I just feel so lucky. And with that, I will see you all next time.